Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 23 of Blue Leadership with your host, Dennis Nair. Dennis is a 26-year law enforcement veteran and retired chief from the state of New York. He's also a proud graduate of the 240th session of the FBI National Academy and the 61st session of the FBI LEDA Command Institute. The Blue Leadership video podcast is brought to you by the nationally ranked Master of Science in Law Enforcement and Public Safety Leadership Program at the University of San Diego. You can learn more about the LEPSL program at criminaljustice.sandiego.edu. And with that, I'll kick things over to Dennis to introduce our featured guest.
Sarah, thank you. Here we are, episode number 23, and today's guest is Chief Anthony Sizemore from the Cape Coral, Florida Police Department. Quick intro is Chief Sizemore is a 26-year law enforcement vet. He has his bachelor's degree in business management, soon to be Master of Science in Law Enforcement and Public Safety Leadership, i.e. LEPSL from the University of San Diego. He's a graduate of the SMIP, Senior Management Institute for Police. Super excited to have him as a guest. And without further ado, Chief Sizemore, thanks for being here.
Oh, Chief, thank you for having me. This is really great. And you hear that a lot. Oh, it's an honor to be here. It really is.
And the funny thing is, I feel like we had a little mini podcast before the podcast, just kind of catching up. And so for the listeners and viewers, Chief Sizemore and I spoke briefly before he was going to even enter LEPSL, and just with the common theme questions that everyone has, and which I had as well, of how can I manage this with my hectic schedule? What's it like going back to college after being away for a long time? And so on and so forth. And we're just looking at now right around the corner is your graduation is in one more course.
That's correct. August, I'll be completed.
So that brings me to my first question. Why LEPSL? After we ironed out that and we had that conversation and you talked to Dr. Fitzfold, why at the level you're the chief of the department, you've had a full career, a successful career with a lot of accolades, why LEPSL?
Well, why go back to school? Number one, you're right. I'm sitting in the chief's chair as a new chief at the time. You kind of got to the end of your career, and why would you want to take something like that on? For me personally, and I think for a lot of people, it's always been a goal of mine. It's been a lifetime bucket list item. I wanted to get that master's degree, not only for any future endeavors or something in my chapter 2, they call it, when I leave policing, but I just wanted to have that completion. And it's always been something pulling at me. It's something I wanted my children to see, that learning is a lifetime endeavor, and to keep those different parts of your brain exercised is why I wanted to go back to school. And I have a colleague here at the Cape Coral Police Department who's a LEPSL grad, and he heard about the University of San Diego from his time in the Navy and had glowing things to say about the school, the campus, the administration, the program itself. So I looked into it, and that captain told me, you need to call Dr. Fitzfold personally. And right away, the fact that he was accessible and able to take time and to really talk to me. And it was a great conversation. And then he gave me your number, and I did a cold call to you, and you had all of the same trepidations or concerns or anxieties that I had, that I think a lot of people have that have been in the workforce a long time, have moved up the ladder, and have been out of academia. And academia has changed a lot over the last 20 years, 20 plus years. And the conversation that you and I had put me at such comfort, because we're peers. Dr. Fitzfold is great, but he is in academia. So of course he loves it. I need to talk to somebody who maybe doesn't love it, or would give me like a real blue perspective. And when I talked to you, all of the concerns that I had, time management, changing of the culture, would I be able to not only participate, but we want to excel. We want to succeed at a high level. And you gave me great confidence to go ahead and enroll. And the conversation that you and I had put me on just a life-changing path. So personally, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And that was awesome. And like I remember the conversation like it was yesterday too. And the interesting thing is such a common theme amongst people. And I was telling you before we went live that I got a cold call myself from someone who actually a captain in a nearby city, large city. Him and some of his colleagues are looking to endeavor on the Lepsel path. And he knew from my previous active experience and my role now with the University of San Diego, his questions were all the same. They were the same. How do I manage it with, 3 kids? How do I manage it with a busy workload, as obviously in the upper echelon of a police department, and all those things. And actually, this is a perfect segue. So that question I was going to ask is, how did you personally manage it? How did you balance your family life, your work life, your personal life and health and wellness? How did you balance it all while studying in a program that does have its standards and its requirements?
Sure, it's no pushover. This is a real program. The questions that we had talked about before, you said, was it busy or was it challenging? Yes, 100%. It is challenging. But anything in life that has value has challenge. It's the old adage, if it were easy, everybody would walk around with a master's degree. It's something to achieve, but definitely able to be done. And one of the things that makes this program different than something else, I wasn't doing all the rigors of chief work and then having to shift gears and start working on a humanities project or something about 1800s civilization. I was diving into a simulated budgetary exercise right at the time I was doing real budget here. Communications courses about how to manage crisis when we're dealing with crisis communications in real time. So it almost was a push in the back in the right direction, the coursework. And then the interaction with the students, it's like the synergy you get or the fulfillment you get. I know you belong to chief organizations. I belong to the Florida Police Chiefs Association, Southwest Florida Police Chiefs Association. And we go to training and we go to conferences, and you get that rush of being around like-minded people that kind of push you in an inspired direction. You get that every day on the discussion boards because you're with those types of people. So it's busy, yes. Burdensome, I say no. It's almost like a cheat sheet for helping you do your job. It's a little bit of a push in a marathon. And the second thing I would say to help you would be calendar. You need to schedule time, make this a priority. And I use my Outlook calendar, and my assistant uses my Outlook calendar, and I put certain parts of the program in here. Now, I'm very fortunate that we have a reimbursement program here at work, and it's very tied into what I'm doing. So this qualifies as advanced leadership training at the department. So I'm able to carve out some time while I'm here at work. But there's a good component outside of work hours, but I would never term it burdensome. I actually look forward to a lot of the interaction. So a longer answer, but yes, it's challenging, 100% worth it, and find a way to fit it into a calendar. That's the way I operate. I forget to eat lunch if I don't write it down. So whatever's going to work for you personally to be organized, but you wouldn't be considering this program if you didn't have strong organizational skills. You just need to give it its proper due.
Yeah, for sure. And what I was going to say is I used to look forward to those discussion boards too. And it was always a nice, almost like, oh, let's see who wrote something. I want to jump on that. And because they were all relevant. And it was always like, I felt like it was a long-standing joke that I had with Dr. Fritzvall, that I felt like I had a Lepsel camera following me, because we'd be studying something and would have immediate relevance or applicability to real time of whatever it was I was dealing in, whatever crisis it may have been, or whether it was a budget issue or whatever. But the interesting thing is, everyone I feel in this program needs to develop a system, and whatever that system is, if it works for them, that's what they need, because a program, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, is just so flexible that when your due dates are, what the expectations are right up front. Everyone does that orientation, so they're familiar with the way the Blackboard computer system works. So then it really becomes, hey, you know what, 10 p.m. at night works for me, or 6 a.m. before work, or during my whatever. I feel that the system is just a key, and that's individual to the person.
100%. The most intimidating thing for me was learning how to do Blackboard. But I'm telling you, if I can do it, anybody can do it. You have an app on your phone that makes it easy to do things on the go. A lot of the discussion or a lot of the presentations are podcast type format. So you make use of your time on your commute. When you're exercising, you could listen to a lot of the topics. And I just find that no matter what the work is, the exercise itself of budgeting time and scheduling and having curveballs thrown at you, those of you in executive levels of your organization already know that. But if you're aspiring to go even higher or to be a CEO, excuse me, of your organization, it's a skill that you need to learn. And this will definitely prepare you for that.
Yeah, and I think you've already answered it in your question, but my question was going to be is like, how has this made you a better leader? I mean, I think I know, but just if there's something that would dovetail off of what you said, is there anything else that you feel this program has helped make you a better leader?
Absolutely. Just listening, active listening, knowing that obviously you have a way and it's been successful to get you where you are, but there's other people that have achieved just as great a heights as you have, but doing it a different way and teaching you to listen. And that's part of lifelong learning. Is the day you think you've got it all figured out and you don't need to learn anymore is probably the day you need to retire. I think there's always an opportunity to do something better, to do something more enriched. I use an analogy at work where we have a really good machine, but you always have to tighten the screw. And that's what I would term this, is tightening that screw mentally, schedule wise, professionally. And it's just another skill that you need to learn, is to, you need to understand that you have a busy day, you have busy family obligations, and then, oh my gosh, a crisis just happened. Well, you can't just say, no, I'm too busy for that. Obviously not. This prepares you for that. It's a good mental and professional exercise, in addition to the benefits that you're getting of learning the material. You're not just marking time to get a degree. You're actually learning skills that, I think you're right. I almost think that they have an algorithm at USD that listens to what you're doing, because every week it's so topical. It's really remarkable how contemporary a lot of the issues are.
And they'll get even more so because the courses are always evolving. And Dr. Fritzvold currently building a new course on leadership. And so that'll be different. And every iteration is going to have something that has a higher or more contemporary relevance. So now let's look at Cape Coral PD and your time there as chief. You've dealt with a fatal OIS. You've dealt with a viral video of one of the First Amendment auditors who, well, I'll let you talk about that. And then there was also Hurricane Ian. And just those three examples, and those are, I can go on and on. How has this program helped you to manage all of those, from a viral video to a fatal OIS to a natural disaster and many others?
We're up to, we've had 3 fatal OISs now, category almost a 5. One of the, I think the third most costliest disaster. Viral videos. I had a very high profile termination I had to make. One of those ones where you got to get out in front of it. I had to call a press conference and really ensure that there was still trust in the agency with a high profile incident and termination. It helped me because other people in the program have been through it, the faculty, your colleagues in class, and the material itself. I think I was convening a press conference to speak about an incident where 2 officers were terminated during the week of crisis communication, which I thought was eerie. But just to have another 20 people pile in to help you, to not critique you, but to give you, we have something similar. This is what we did. And try this link, watch this video of what we did. That was huge. The budgeting exercise. Now it depends. Each city is a little bit different, but the core tenets of budgeting were right at the time we were doing that. Very, very helpful. Crisis management. You know, you think you know everything you need to know about crisis management and conflict resolution, I should say. You wouldn't be where you are if you didn't know how to manage conflict, but just another set of tools to be able to do it. And I have a lot of, I didn't think about that moments, and let me try it. And I've tried a lot of the things in real time. Just last week, I'm in the data analysis program, and our agency just finally got our certification on a transfer from UCR to NIBRS. And just to hear people that have already blazed that trail, some of the pitfalls that they had of a perception of a crime spike because you're NIBR's numbers are much different than UCR. So not only are you doing those calculations, I'm looking at my own data that I poured over already with a new lens that I was given by the LEPSL program, and then how to communicate that to policymakers, watchdogs in the community, critics, and even fans, to prepare them that these numbers are going to look a little bit different. And I was able to, what I find rewarding is I look around and I can't believe it, but I actually have stuff to offer other people. So what I tried to tell people, and I learned this from the synergy of the LEPSL program, is migrate your community off of crime numbers, have them be able to explain them, but pull them back into touch and feel as opposed to those numbers. And that communication strategy helped. And it's not all take. There's a lot of give, and there's a huge reward in being able to give your advice and your experiences, both good and bad, to your classmates and even your instructors. You know, there's a lot of good interaction with the instructors. They're not just referees in a game. They're players. They're actively giving you their information and learning from you as well. It's just a really great environment. It's mentally stimulating.
What an answer. So much to unpack. I mean, I'm listening, I'm like taking mental notes, and I'll say as a faculty, I'm learning every class. Somebody brings something forward in the discussion boards, and it's like, oh, I didn't know that. And then I might get on as the faculty, hey, can you talk a little bit more about that? And I agree. It creates this synergistic environment of just learning and wanting to learn, not just to pass a class or get a grade, but because people are just thirsty for knowledge, and it's all relevant knowledge. And then I also think, you know, like that data fluency course, you're right. That's huge, because if you can't tell your community, well, it looks like we have a huge spike in crime. No, it's not that. UCR has only counted the top crime, except in a couple of instances, and NIBR's count like the first 10, and so
Right.
Now your numbers are going to be completely skewed. But I felt that LEPSL created this platform that gave those who are in it and graduates of it these bona fides or these credentials to speak with this level of credibility. And I think that's kind of what you were alluding to. I think, you know, when you
Absolutely.
explain things. So I'm sure I forgot some things within your answer, but I think that's such a it's such a powerful way to explain some of the value it brought you.
Sure. Thank you. One thing you just sparked with me is that the classes are not standalone classes in a vacuum. They all weave together. So when you have data fluency and communications go together, because you can't go out and just present, all right, everybody, residents of Cape Coral, good news, we're 1.63. And last year we were 1.98. What does that mean? It teaches you how to layer that in with context, to be able to play chess rather than checkers with a lot of your messaging, which is a big part of, I think, what a 21st century police leader has to do.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, we could talk all, and the interesting thing about the relevance, you mentioned conflict resolution and conflict management. And the interesting thing is people can apply that in their personal lives as well. It's not just limited. I mean, when you learn different conflict styles and you see, well, maybe your style is more geared toward avoidance, and maybe that's why someone has some challenges in their life, and maybe they see, well, maybe they're a competitor and or aggressor or whatever. And if you learn that, then you can, I think, work better to maybe make more harmony, not just in the way you lead a police department, but in your family life and your whatever. I just think there's just such relevance in so many different ways.
Absolutely. If you have a thirst for learning, this is going to quench it, and it'll do it way beyond your professional career. If you want to learn, which I think you do if you're watching this podcast, you want to learn, this is a great program to do that in many aspects.
So you're a lifelong learner. One of the things I said before we went live, I said, I wanted to ask you, Chief, what made you want to become a police officer? This is not the human behind the badge part. Why did you want to be a police officer back 26 years ago?
It's a funny story. It never was like a lifelong dream where I was a little boy wanted to be a police officer. I always respected them. I had police. As a matter of fact, my father was a police officer, but that isn't why I wanted to do it. I wanted to be a gym teacher and a football coach. And I played a lot of high level athletics. And once that wasn't going to happen, I was actually looking into teaching, and this is why I became a lifelong learner. At the time, I got my associate's degree at a local junior college. I was playing baseball for them, and I was working on a program to go to a larger four-year university for football. That didn't work out, and quite frankly, I got tired of school, and I said, well, you can't be a coach and a teacher with a 2-year degree. And back, 26, almost 27 years ago, what's a decent job you can get with a 2-year degree? Well, Pop took care of us. He had insurance. We never went without. That's very much like athletics. It's uniform, it's team, multiple people coming together for one common goal. I started asking my father, what do you think about being a cop? And he says, no. That, like any father would the first time. So he and I had a lot of good heart-to-heart talks, and he understood that I really did have a spirit for it. I think it was just kind of a diamond in the rough that once he figured out, I think you could do it. He pointed me in the right direction to go. I went to the police academy, and I was very, very fortunate that I got around a group of guys and gals here at the police department who were working on getting their bachelor's degree. And we have a great city, a great community that values further education or higher education. And I took advantage of a college reimbursement program back in 99 and 2000. And I was working the street and worked midnights and day shift, and went back and got my bachelor's degree. And I thought I was good for a while. And it enabled me to unlock some doors through my career to move up the ladder. And I actually was able to be appointed the chief without the master's degree. But it's something I wanted, and I knew that I could go back and do it. The city is very amenable to that, and it allowed me to do that. So that's how I became a cop. I kind of backed into it and then just fell in love with it. It was a great, I'm on house money right now. I watched an episode of Cops back in the 90s, and I thought, yeah, that'd be a great job. Let's arrest somebody and high five on the side of the car when you're done. Well, you do that 30 seconds into field training, and then everything after that has just been a bonus.
Wow. Now I'm going to come back to that question. I want to skip for a second. So that's why you wanted to become a police officer. I want to skip to this question. What do you see in the next 5 years as the biggest challenges, both within your agency and in the institution of policing? Sure.
And I think they're the same answer, but for a little bit different reasons. In our agency, our city is growing right now. Florida's the 3rd most populous state in the country, and Cape Coral has grown to the 8th most populous city. We're soon to be the 7th. I think we're averaging 400 new construction building permits per month. And that's pre-COVID, during COVID, post-Hurricane Ian. People don't care. They're moving here, and we're exploding. When I started with Cape PD, we had about 130 officers, and we just eclipsed 300. And we're onboarding an additional 25 full-time employees every year. So we're on pace to be at 400 by the time I separate in about 4 years here. So recruiting is big, getting talent, attracting talent. Now you look at other parts of the country that are not growing at that rate, and maybe they're having budgetary conflict with their governing body or defund, if you say. The end result is the same. We're all competing for those resources. People who want to be a police officer, who have the heart and spirit and the ability to be a police officer. That's a diminishing pool. And no matter what your motivation, we're growing like crazy. Our governor's giving $5,000 bonuses to move here. It's a very fertile, rich environment to be a police officer. And there's other parts of the country that are having the opposite. Doesn't matter. We're all fighting for the same people. So recruiting and hiring and retention obviously are a big problem, or a big challenge, not a problem, but a challenge into the future. One that's struggle that we are starting to encounter, and I think others will as well. The advent of technology and moving to the cloud. And what I mean by that is all of your legacy programs, be it body-worn cameras, if you're using Axon, your payroll and staffing programs, all of these programs in your CAD RMS system that you've had for maybe 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, these contracts are coming up and you're not given the option. They're telling you, because I'm going through this right now, Oh, by the way, we're transitioning from on-premise server-based to cloud-based. And with that comes cloud money. And you need to prepare yourselves, your budgets, your governing body, your finance director, however you work your budget, that those prices are going up and they're non-negotiable. We just went through it with Axon, where we bought a house that was too small and added on, and we're in a jalopy. We needed to get some what we called an omnibus one contract, where we went all in. We've had taser devices since 2002 or 3. That was one contract, and we kept building on that for adding people. I told you we've onboarded 200 people since then. We have a different provider for in-car that's not very good. Axon offers that. And body-worn camera, we voluntarily went to body-worn cameras in 2018. That's another contract. So we need to put them all together. And we had to do that because those contracts expired, and they told us they're changing, they're going up, and you can put them all together and pay a lot more money, but it's going to save you in the long run. Kind of like when my wife comes home from shopping. Look at all the money I saved. Looks to me like you spent a lot of money. Same kind of a thing. But what I had to tell my policymakers was we are a BWC, or body-worn camera agency, that is not going away. And I'm not going to be the chief that gets rid of it. You're not going to be the elected body that gets rid of it. And I'm telling you, the future, pretty soon, DOJ grants and any federal grant is going to be tied to that. Accreditation is going to be tied to it. So if we go under if you look at a geometric proof, the given, right? The given is in 10 years, we are going to be a BWC agency. So if that's a fact, and we all agree on that, then you can do this larger omnibus program, pay a little bit more money up front. It looks shocking, but at the end of 10 years, you're going to save a lot of money. Or you can go on the cheap, and then 5 years in, it's going to be an insurmountable cost. And we may be in a position where we abandon the program right at the time when everybody in the nation is not, and you're going to cut your own throat for government funding later. Those are the things that I think are only going to grow in the next 5 years and beyond. So it's not just policing. You know, when you get it into this level, you have to be concerned with providing all of the ancillary items and things you need to be able to police. So that's what I see, because it's happening to us in real time. And if it's not happening at your agency, give it time, it will. You're going to be hit with a very bizarre set of financial constraints or circumstances that you just cannot say no to.
Agree. I couldn't agree more with those two. And you know, if you and I had unlimited time, we can make a laundry list of them. But I agree, right. Recruiting and retaining, we're all competing for the same quality people in a time in which it's not desirable for many reasons to get into law enforcement, and the private sector has more opportunities, and there's just a lot of challenges. And I agree, those costs, and you can't be short-sighted and think, well, like it has this upfront cost, because a person or an agency or an organization will pay tenfold or more in liability and lawsuits, and you can't even put a number on the trust and transparency that'll be lost if you don't have that asset to say, well, this is how it went down, versus, you know, not having that. So I agree. It seems like it's just one more aspect of leadership, and that's really looking around the corner, and not just where A leads to B, but where A can lead to Z and then back again.
Right. And I just went through that at a city council meeting, and I explained that, and I should have thought of this sooner. I used a lot of the things that I learned in the data fluency class, showing them the data, and then using the communications class to present it in what I call a happy meal fashion, right? You gotta take a college calculus level thing and put it in an elementary math way for not only policymakers, but those they represent to get on board, or get a majority of them to get on board and endorse it. So those things are happening anyway as a chief, but this class and this program gives you the tools to do that better.
For sure. And remember, I said I was going to go back to that question. I asked why you wanted to be a police officer. So then I asked you the challenges over the next 5 years, and that's going to be within the time you're still a chief and dealing with crises and challenges. And what still, I guess my follow-up was going to be, what motivates you still with all those challenges and with what we know can occur at any time on any call? What keeps you motivated, Chief?
I still believe in my heart that this is the best profession on earth. And I tell people, if they're interested in getting into being a police officer, to do it. I really love interacting with our new recruits and see the excitement on their face. We have a very exciting time right now where there's a good amount of people that are retiring this year, and we have a lot of promotions between now and December. I mean, 2 deputy chiefs, 3 captains, 5 lieutenants, 8 sergeants, and then all the requisite growth that we have. So number one, that keeps me up at night because that's scary. But number two, what an opportunity to see people achieve and mold them. And I have some loose ends that I can see the ability to tie up by putting in the right people and instilling the right culture of leadership. Really, these are moves that are going to be in place way long after I'm gone. We're talking another generation of police work, and to have a heavy hand in that, it's very rewarding. And that's what motivates me. Is it's super exciting right now. It's almost like I'm getting promoted when you see all of these people, and it's just, you've been through it. Anybody that's been a chief, promotion time is really a buzz, and it's super exciting right now. That's what motivates me.
Yeah, and definitely akin to that statement: in crisis or challenge, there's opportunity, and it's focusing on the positive. So, one of the things that in all contemporary law enforcement, you have to be thinking of wellness, and we look for it, for officers, and we understand, to stay well in a toxic filled or trauma filled environment, and a lot of what policing involves. And I agree, it is still the best profession. It's taken some hits, and it's going to come back because it is noble. It's a calling. It's so much. It's people's safety and well-being, but there's a wellness factor. And so, Chief, with all that you do, leading an agency, a busy agency, with all that goes on, what are some things you can suggest or that you do for yourself to help maintain wellness in your life?
For myself, I lean on my faith. I'm a faith-based guy. I volunteer with youth, with coaching at my church. I try to do fitness. It may not look like it to others, but for me it is. I like to stay active, try to eat right, and do my best to get good sleep. All of the basic things that you like to do, but find something you're passionate about away from police work and dive into it. Organizationally, I've really leaned into wellness. And this class is very heavy or this program is very heavy into that. And I'll give a plug to one of my classmates now. Chief Neil Gang is on the forefront of officer wellness. And I call it professionally appropriated, but others might call it stealing. I've stolen a lot of his great ideas and programs that he has in place. And I guess program is a dirty word. Wellness isn't a program that you install. It's a culture that you weave in, and you were very heavy into that too. And I really took that to heart. I've instilled that into the building. There's 21st century policing has a big component about officer wellness. You can't do the job right if you don't take care of yourself. Destigmatizing it, changing terms from PTSD to PTSI. It's an injury rather than a disorder. And really walking that walk, taking advantage of the programs that we've instilled here at the police department personally and publicly, so others see that there is no shame. It's something to be celebrated to take care of yourself. So that's what I try to do. Could always do better, but it's better than most.
That's a very thorough answer. And this is leadership. It's a leadership podcast, with a leadership program. So I always like to wrap up with questions on where people get their, some of their motivation or mentorship from in leadership. And is there any books that you and or podcasts that you enjoy and or recommend?
Sure. I thought about this question a little bit. So I like, and he was referenced in the program, Jocko Willink. His podcasts are really good. I listen to a lot of, no matter what side you lean, that I listen to what's called opposition research, right? So I'm not even going to tip my hand as to where I lean, but I listen to right-leaning podcasts. I listen to left-leaning podcasts, not because I'm a true believer in any one of them. I want to hear what people are thinking because it helps message control and delivery. Who are you speaking to? You need to know where they're at, what they're thinking. It's a way to reach them for communication, and also for tactics. If that's the expectations of your community on one side or the other, you find common ground and you deliver service to what people want. I think that's what chiefs are expected to do, is research what their community and their constituency are looking for. What are the expectations? So I listen to those all perspectives to be able to deliver that and also to be able to communicate with them. I wish I read more. That's probably my Achilles heel. But I like books about coaching. I think leaders of teams outside of police work can give you kind of a fresh perspective. And I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I played competitive football, and a coach taught me how to watch tape, how to watch game film. And it helped then, but it's a curse because it's ruined watching football for me now. And my friends even say, you don't watch it like we do. I watch it like a coach's tape. Well, the same could be said for movies, Netflix series that you stream. I'm always looking for a leadership aspect or component to it, where you've all been in these classes where the instructor will pause, play a clip from a movie. Like here's a scene from Remember the Titans. And I watch TV and movies now like that. And I'm not looking for it, but it jumps out like, oh, I should probably clip that and then show it. And it's really ruined entertainment for me. But I find inspiration in leadership all over the place. I can watch the Food Network and see how a chef runs a kitchen and find leadership, good and bad. So I think always have your eyes and ears open and enjoy your day and smell the roses, but be looking for signs and be looking for examples of leadership that you can take and put into the conversation to teach.
That's awesome. I don't think anyone's ever answered it that way, but that's truly a leadership answer, a leader-based answer, and I really enjoy that. And I also like that about the opposition, because otherwise you're going to an echo chamber. You hear what you want and what supports what you agree with, and there's really no growth in that. And
Right.
I think, like in your role as a chief, what a great analysis of it, to be able to understand what both sides may be looking for, and that way you're not missing something. I'm sure there's a lot of aha moments there as well.
It teaches active listening and practice. You'll find as a chief, you'll be in community groups and they're not all, pep rallies. You have to deal with controversial issues and you need to see through the other person's perspective. And you can't do that unless you try, and you need to listen and immerse yourself in different points of view. You may learn something yourself. I think it's good for you as an individual, but certainly tactically, it's going to make you a better communicator and a better leader.
Chief, this has been an awesome podcast. Sarah's going to come in and close us out. I just want to say for the listeners and viewers, this is definitely one to watch and maybe even rewatch, or re-listen to, just because I think, again, so much value in the answers, and so many things that I think are very relatable. And again, I think, the value of academics and the LEPSL program specifically, and of, leadership and its challenges. And Chief, thank you very much. It's been an honor to have you as our Blue Leadership guest for this episode.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Sarah. It's been great.
Yes, thank you both so much. And to our viewers, thank you for taking the time to meet our law enforcement heroes and leaders who are a part of the MS LEPSL family. If you would like to watch previous episodes of Blue Leadership, you can find them on the video tab of your Facebook page or by searching USD Blue Leadership on YouTube. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next time.